Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So this is going to be my TBR for the month of August, and I'm actually going to try to hold myself to my TBR this time, because last time I did this, it lasted about 3 days. Okay, so the month of August is going to be starting with The Greatcoats by Sebastian de Castell. So this book, as I understand it, is being told as a Joe Abercrombie meets the Three Musketeers. I'm not exactly sure how accurate that is. I read a little bit of the book, just the first chapter or two, and there's a decent amount of comedy, definitely going to be violent. I didn't read Three Musketeers. Obviously, I know all about the Three Musketeers from movies and shows, but I actually haven't read Abercrombie yet, but I do know that he is Lord Grimdark, so I'm expecting this to get pretty grim. But basically, the story follows Kest, Brasty, and our main character, Falcio, who used to be the Greatcoats, now known as the Tattercloaks, because they are basically looked down upon throughout society. No one takes them seriously. They're basically a bunch of brigands and thieves at this point, as how they're known and how they're portrayed. But basically, they're getting back together to try to reunite the Greatcoats and unravel some conspiracy that's taking over the city. So essentially, they are operating in this world that does not trust them or their Greatcoats anymore. They are kind of a joke, and they're really trying to regain their reputation and figure out what's going on in this world to essentially redeem themselves. Like I said, I did read the first chapter or two just to get a feel for the book. It's hilarious right off the bat. The first opening paragraphs are actually a lot of fun, and I'm excited to read this one. This is actually part of a read-along with another channel. That's Mike's Book Reviews. So I am waiting to get to this any further. I'm not trying to get out ahead of myself, but I was able to get my hands on all 4 of these books. They are seemingly very hard to find online, and Sebastian, the author himself, actually responded to Mike and talked about how he was getting things back in stock. I ordered it from some obscure website that I found, looked totally shady, and had a big banner that was just like, "This is not a scam." And I spent, I think it was like $50 for all 4 of the books, and it took a month, but they did finally come, and they're in perfect shape. So looking forward to that one. Next up, of course, we have The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I am finally getting around to this story. My thought process is basically, since these are massive books, I mean, this is just shy of 1,000 pages, and I believe Words of Radiance and Oathbringer are both well over 1,000 pages. I'm going to do one of them a month, so I'm starting in August so I can have all 3 of those under my belt by the time Breath of Amora drops in November. And the only real reason that I've held off is because I've been reading Wheel of Time. I will have finished book 5 by the end of this month, and then I'm going to take a short break and basically spend the month of August reading what I'm talking about right now. And then I'll get back to Wheel of Time starting in September. But I actually need to order some more of them, because Fires of Heaven is the last book that I physically own right now. So I need to get at least a couple more books of the series so that I can continue and then enter the slog and hopefully power right through it and get to the end. But I do hope to have that series wrapped up by the end of the year. Stormlight Archive, of course, though, everybody knows by now, it's Brandon Sanderson's epic. Book 4 comes out in November. It's probably going to be 1,500 pages. Who knows? It's going to be gigantic. All these books are huge. Really looking forward to it. I hear the magic system is super fun. The characters are engaging. The world building is fantastic. And I haven't read anything by Sanderson since Mistborn a couple months ago. Really loved Era 1. Didn't care for Era 2. Didn't like Secret History. Didn't like Elantris. So this is being hyped to no end for me, and I'm really excited to get to it. Okay, so next up, I am going to be trying to do this every month. I'm going to weave in some fantasy. I'm going to weave in some sci-fi and or horror books in my TBRs from now on, since it's mostly fantasy that I read. And that'll be Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. So this, as I understand it, in my recent book haul that I did, my sci-fi book haul of July, I basically picked up a bunch of Michael Crichton novels because I hear so many great things about him, and he's a great sci-fi author. So I decided to give his books a try. And I'm starting with Andromeda Strain, where there is this strain that essentially gets loose across the world, and it's a global pandemic that all these scientists are trying to nail down and figure out what's going on. Very fitting for 2020, I thought. And I don't really know much else about it. I know that most of his books everybody raves about. They say they're fantastic. I will get to some of his other ones, especially Jurassic Park, here soon as well. But I wanted to start with Andromeda Strain because it is a little bit shorter, and since I'm reading things like Stormlight and a couple other books that are going to be a little bit bigger, I wanted to mix in a couple smaller books. And also, I have a son on the way in August, so hopefully I actually have time to read all these. But I'm mixing in a few more shorter books this time around just because I don't want to commit myself to reading a bunch of really big books and not being able to read them. So looking forward to that as well. Okay, so the fourth book on my August TBR is Summer Night by Jim Butcher, which is book 4 of the Dresden Files. Now, this series I have absolutely adored to this point. Book 2 was a little iffy for me in some spots, but I still overall liked it. Both Stormfront and Grave Peril, which are books 1 and 3, I loved. And everything that I'm being told is it just gets better and better. And I'm obviously not going to catch up in time for Battleground or even read Peace Talks anytime soon, but I'm working my way up the ladder of all the Dresden books. I actually have 3 more on the way, I believe. I love this series so far. Harry is a hilarious character, tons of fun to read about. I love the world. I love the magic building that's going on. I really just love the overall scope that this is going to take, and as I said in my previous reviews of these books, I would be fine with it if it was a Monster of the Week with no overarching story, just because it works so well. The modern day Chicago setting mixed in with magical elements and fantasy creatures, vampires, demons, fairies, all of that good stuff. The writing is hilarious. It's fantastic. Even the side characters that are being introduced now are awesome characters. I'm not going to spoil anything by saying any characters right now, but they are just a blast to read, and I hope to get more from them, especially the ones that we were introduced to in Grave Peril, because I love them already. Okay, and I plan on ending the month of August with Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. So this is going to be my second sci-fi novel of next month that I plan on reading, and this is another one that a lot of people love. They praise this book to no end. If you love 80s nostalgia, anything from the 80s, you're going to love it. Basically, this world where they go into this VR simulation to play games and win prizes. Obviously, that's going to turn bad at some point. I don't believe for a second that it's the adults Harry Potter, as the back of the book likes to say. I made a joke about that as well in my recent book haul. But I am looking forward to that. It should just be a nice, light, fun read to mix in with all these other books that I'm reading. And Ready Player 2 got announced, so I want to at least have read this in time for that. And if I do like this, I will absolutely pick up Ready Player 2, because I have no idea what to expect from that. And really all I know about Ready Player 1 is just from just hearing people talk about it. Obviously there was a movie made. They make damn sure you know that by the cover of the book. But I'm looking forward to that one. It should be fun. So those are the 5 books that I have on my current TBR for the month of August. Hopefully I stick to it. I don't anticipate knocking anything off the list. I do have a couple of other books, of course, behind me that I do want to get to, but I have to try to structure this a little bit just so that I can keep myself on somewhat of a schedule and read all the books that I want to get to and not just go off on a tangent and read 15 Dresden Files books in a row, which I would do, but I'm not going to. So I'm really looking forward to all these, but I would love to know what you guys are about to read. Do you have a planned TBR for August? Are you reading any of these? Have you read any of these? If you have, just drop in the comments. Let me know any of your opinions on what I'm about to read or what you're reading. I would love to hear from you. So that's going to do it for this TBR, and hopefully I stick to it. And feel free to yell at me in the comments if I end up reading other books. But until next time, everybody, keep reading.